Let's talk a little bit about why we would want to use CSS for page layout before we begin to work in it. And one of the reasons you want to use CSS for page layout is it's easier to maintain and it's much easier to work with than the old method prior to CSS. And right around versions 3 and 4 of browsers, and we're up in much higher versions of that now. I'm talking Internet Explorer 3. Back then, CSS emerged as a way to better handle working in HTML pages. Because we used to have to create tables, inside of other tables, to get our pages positioned correctly with HTML. Because HTML was not really created to work with positioning. It was designed to be text and hyperlinks only. So all of a sudden, the web took off and people wanted it to look a little nicer. So CSS eventually emerged as the way to do that. So imagine this page with tables inside of tables inside of tables to create the content. And I decide I'm going to take these 3 columns and combine them into 2 columns for the next piece of the page content. And you had a real mess on your hands because tables would shift and move as you subtract or add things, and it was very difficult to work in. Maintaining it was also difficult because each individual page has its own page layout built into the page. What CSS does is solve all of those problems. If I turn Live View on inside of Dreamweaver, and it's this button here, I'm just looking at the Meridian homepage for our local website. So I just want to get you thinking about working with CSS. And you can see these drop-downs are actually not images at all. Using CSS, I can create those types of features. Down in here, I can add and modify very easily all these different columns instead of having to create tables of tables of tables. Also, this page background is an interesting piece to this page. What CSS allows you to do is imagine trying to print this page. You would use your entire cartridge of ink just to print this single page. With CSS, we can say, don't print the page background. If this is going to go to a printer, we don't want it. So CSS gives you lots of control in many ways. We can control not just for print, but our pages going to handheld devices and other devices as well. The other piece that I think is a very obvious one is hyperlinks. Always were underlined in HTML. There was no way to get rid of the underline. CSS allowed us to get rid of all of those underlines so that our design portion can look a little bit better. Imagine each one of these hyperlinks having underlines to them. It would really mess up our page design. So those are a few of the reasons why you want to work with CSS, and be very happy you are not working in tables. Trust me on that one. CSS does have a bit of a learning curve to it, but it's well worth it for the amount of control you can get back of your web pages that we did not have at all with HTML.